Hello, and welcome to a Pratt School of Engineering conversation on 21st century leadership with Dr. Edward Marshall, whose new book, Leadership's Fourth Evolution, Collaboration for the 21st Century, was just released. Dr. Marshall is a professor at Duke University who teaches leadership to graduate students at both Pratt and Fuqua School of Business. Also with us are 4 graduate engineering students from Pratt. I am Swati, along with Paris, Nicole, and Jasmine. Our purpose here is to discuss Professor Marshall's new book and why it is so critical for our generation to graduate students who are the next generation of leaders.
Hello, Swati.
Hello, Professor Marshall. Before Professor Marshall started teaching at Duke in 2016, for 40 years, he consulted with hundreds of senior leaders on business and organizational change projects at Fortune 500 companies like DuPont, Marriott, Microsoft, and Philips on 5 continents. Professor Marshall is one of the original pioneers in collaborative leadership as far back as 1979. Ever since, his focus has been on developing an alternative leadership paradigm to replace hierarchy. His groundbreaking and best practice collaborative method for leadership, teams, and organizational change began in earnest in 1989 when he was asked by IT engineers at DuPont to help them transform their culture from hierarchy to collaboration. This led to a national award for organizational excellence and his first book, Transforming the Way We Work, The Power of the Collaborative Workplace. During the 1990s, he realized that with globalization and new technologies, leadership cultures were missing high trust relationships. So the subject of his second book was Building Trust at the Speed of Change. Over the last 2 decades, he realized that sustainable success in organizational change depends on the workforce owning its culture, mission, and work processes. Leadership's Fourth Evolution, Collaboration for the 21st Century, presents not only a comprehensive theory of collaboration, but also a handbook of field-tested best practice implementation processes for leaders, teams, and organizations. So without further ado, let's just have the future of the workplace tell us about themselves, where they're planning to take these principles of collaborative leadership.
Good morning. My name is Paris, and I am a graduate from the United States Naval Academy class of 2012. I've served in the nuclear Navy as a nuclear submarine officer for the past 8 years, and I'm currently here at Duke as a staff member of the Reserve Officer Training Corps program. I am in my final semester in the Masters of Engineering Management program, and as I prepare to transition from the military, I intend to leverage my leadership and engineering experience to enhance the team environment in corporate America.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm a current Master's of Biomedical Engineering student at Duke University with a focus in medical devices. I graduated from Lehigh University with a BS in Bioengineering, and I'm really passionate about healthcare, gender equality in STEM, and improving medical devices and diagnostics.
Hello everyone, my name is Jasmine Verma. I'm currently pursuing my Master's in Engineering Management at Duke. My undergraduate degree was in chemical engineering. Prior to coming to Duke, I was working for a nonprofit organization where I felt I served a purpose, and in hopes of serving a larger purpose, I'm looking ahead at gaining experience at bigger corporations and develop my potential to be able to do that.
As someone stepping in from a small-scale project management and marketing role, I would like to gain experience working in large corporations and see how they successfully manage their diverse portfolios. And with all these great future careers in mind, tell us, Professor Marshall, how organizations work and what the main message of your book is.
Well, thank you, Swati. I feel privileged to be here with all of you, and I want to thank you all for this opportunity to really talk about this, what I think is a really important message. We are in the 21st century digital age and facing a series of very complex systemic challenges at the global, national, and organizational levels. We've got, as we all know, COVID-19 going around the world, economic collapse that is happening in terms of job loss and closing of businesses. We have systemic racism and police brutality that is institutionalized, and a loss of public trust. And if that weren't enough, we have climate change, as we can see with many of the extreme weather events that are happening around the world. And all of that is happening all at the same time and all at once. So we need to have a leadership culture that enables us to do that. But unfortunately, we're still using the 20th century industrial age power-based leadership approach, which is simply out of step with our times. It creates dependence and fear and politics and competition and dysfunction inside of organizations. So I believe that now is the time. This is the moment in our history when it's time to transition to the fourth evolution of leadership, which is what in my teaching at Duke, I've learned that the millennial and Gen Zers expect an empowering leadership culture, and that is collaboration. What happens in a collaborative leadership culture is there's psychological safety, there's ownership, there's respect and trust, and all of that enables people to do their best work and be their best selves.
Professor, in your book, you discuss the history behind the collaboration paradigm, particularly focusing on the research and studies from 6 individuals in the 20th century. Which of these individuals had the greatest effect on that paradigm, and how did you reshape the paradigm and apply it to the collaborative organization?
Thank you, Paris. That's an insightful question. You're right. I review in the early chapters of this book about 100 years worth of leadership history. And I try to make the distinction between these 4 paradigms. The first one being Theory X, the scientific management school of thought, which was great in the 1900s, perhaps, but that led to research and then to a second, the second evolution, which was the people paradigm, written about by Doug McGregor, who was at MIT. Book was published in 1960, The Human Side of Enterprise. And in my view, McGregor has made the most significant contribution to our understanding about human motivation in organizations, because he found that, and he and others during that time found that people are social creatures, that we like to work in teams, that we'd like to be appreciated and acknowledged for our contributions. He believed in the goodness of people and the dignity and value, the worth that they bring to their work. And while Stephen Covey's work in principle-centered leadership has been influential, what I call the third evolution of leadership, it was Doug McGregor's Theory Y that is the cornerstone of my work. And so I've taken that and built Covey's work and McGregor's work into the fourth evolution of leadership, which is collaboration, and shaped it really around the construct of ownership as really the central principle, and that people really naturally want to work collaboratively, and what leaders need to do is to create the environment where that's possible.
That's great, because it kind of build ups on what I wanted to ask. So my question is that, being a millennial myself, I agree that collaborative leadership is not a surprise to our generation and all the people I work with right now. But I'm just thinking that how the older or more experienced professionals who've learned to succeed by following the rules of the Theory X or power paradigm, if you will, how can they possibly shift to a more collaborative Theory Y or trust-based mindset and an approach to leading? Well,
it's tough, Jasmine. I've found that in working with hundreds of leaders that this shift from a power-based approach to leadership, which is how most of us have operated. I was raised in that culture as well. It requires a commitment or a decision to make a change to change the mindset as well as the behavior set. So there are a couple ways in which that happens. The first is that the individual leader will make a conscious choice to change. And so I have a whole chapter in this book on the shift from power-based to collaborative leadership. It's called the Collaborative Leadership Journey. It's not easy, and sometimes people get into it and they say, well, this is not something I really want to do. The second thing is I found that leaders, there may be some kind of a critical event that happens to them, or they make a different kind of choice. They make this transition because they want to leave a legacy behind. They take a look at how they have behaved in the past, and they want to make a change. The second possibility is that they're younger and they may see the handwriting on the wall that They really want to be a visionary, and they want to also leave a positive impact on the workforce. But the third thing is the most prevalent, and that is that there's some significant personal emotional event that happens to them that may be a heart attack, it may be the death of a child, or it may be a failed business. And what happens is that gives them an opportunity to really reflect on their lives and say, is this really how I want to lead my life? And they make the change to a different way of working.
Professor, I have a question as well. So I see how this book can help us become collaborative leaders, but I have a question more about collaborative teams. So what is the collaborative team challenge that you have witnessed most often, and what is the most effective way that you've seen to overcome this challenge?
Well, there's more than one. I've found at least three major challenges, Nicole. Most teams in companies don't have a governance process. I'm estimating 95% of corporate teams don't have any governance process. So you end up, playing the kinds of games that people play. And the preeminent notion, prevailing notion around how to do teams is norming, storming, forming. And that just doesn't work because it ends up where people are storming more than non-performing. So the collaborative team governance process that I developed was intended to fix that problem by front-loading a set of operating agreements for people. The question is, how are we going to work together? And it's important and critical for everybody to agree to that. And what happens when everyone agrees to how they're going to make decisions and how they're going to disagree with each other, et cetera, is it builds trust and ownership within the team. The second problem, the challenge I see is that in trying to achieve those operating agreements by 100% true consensus, no reservations, which is the gold standard for collaborative decision making, is that's hard, and people have problems with making that. I mean, you all have been through it. You know how challenging it is, and so sometimes people will compromise and they'll do a can live with consensus agreement. And usually, what I have observed is that within a week or 2 weeks or a month or so, the team dynamic starts to break down. So the lesson here is for people to learn how to work through our differences with each other to our mutual satisfaction and understanding. And the third challenge is that team members is around accountability. And it's really critical for team people to hold themselves accountable. The prevailing idea, the mantra in organizations today is, I'm going to ask for forgiveness and not for permission. I fundamentally disagree with that. I think we need to hold ourselves accountable to a standard and hold each other accountable so that we can basically do the right thing for all.
Thank you very much, Professor. This has been really helpful for us to be able to ask you these questions. Do you have maybe a summary or closing points that you would like to leave us with that summarize this book the best?
I do. I have three central points I'd like to leave with us. And the first is that, as we go back to the beginning of our conversation, that this is indeed the 21st century digital age, and we need 21st century leadership. The second is that is what I call the urgency of now. We have three very critical issues facing us that we need to grapple with. They just scream for collaborative solutions. One is the global COVID-19 pandemic and the economic ripple effects associated with that. For us to recover is going to require incredible collaborative leadership. The second is nuclear proliferation, and unfortunately, we thought we had it under control, but we don't. And we have the rise of authoritarian governments around the world that just might use them. And thirdly is the potential for a sixth mass extinction called climate change if we do not curb our carbon emissions by 2030. So the last message that I want to leave us with is this message of hope. Your generation is our best hope. I believe in you all and have great faith and confidence in your competence. And it's because of you that I wrote this book. So hopefully this is not only a theory that you can adhere to, but also you've got a handbook for implementation that will work at the individual team and organization level. So I just want to thank you all for your excellent questions, the hard work that went into making this conversation possible, and for your commitment to this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Grad school has turned into a great aggregator, and all of us in this panel have ambitions of working better in better environments. Collaboration is the best way possible for us to operate in our lives. We'll work more productively, have greater job satisfaction, and treat the company as our own, instead of merely a place we have to work at to get some sort of compensation. So I have grown up in different cultures around the world, and I've found that listening and respecting others is essential for building trust, and I expect nothing less from my workplace.
Yes, and during my time in the military, I had the opportunity to witness the importance of collaboration. Working on submarines, I saw the importance of collaborating daily, since every team member was engaged in ensuring the safety of the submarine and successful completion of all of our missions. The submarine was the ultimate collaborative environment because every member was required to trust each other with their lives. This idea of collaboration should be no different for any company or institution. As a future manager, I understand it's important to take the actions required to establish a collaborative work culture. As the world changes and technology progresses, so must the way we lead. I truly believe that the ideals Professor Marshall presents in this book are the keys to leading successfully in the 21st century.
To me, collaborative leadership is 100% essential in order to have an effective team and to produce quality deliverables on time. People do not thrive in group settings that are dominated by power, and collaborative leadership allows members to take ownership of their work and build psychological safety, which is essential when you want to generate the best ideas and have everyone in your team contribute. I'm entering the workforce this winter, and I'm confident that I'll be a great team member because of these collaborative leadership skills that I have now.
I also want to see and practice collaborative leadership based on trust, honesty, ownership, and accountability. I personally believe the key to this is self-awareness, the will to change and develop yourself, and to ask for help when you need it. I think psychological safety is essential for me when it comes to growth, which is possible only in collaborative teams. In collaborative cultures where coaching and mutual support are also key to one's professional success, I think in these trying times, collaborative leadership has the capability of bringing us all together so that we can meet our most critical challenges head on.
I'd like to close by thanking Professor Marshall for having written this book, for believing in us, and for inspiring us to be our best selves and to serve others. Thank you.